Alright, great parts. Today we are doing the occiput treatment. Like I said, when we do occiput treatments, you either want to book these clients for the end of the day or the end of your week because it will be damaging your elbow. So the occiput treatment, we're dealing with the occipitalis, the eyes, the occiput, the sternomastoids, the scalene muscles, the nuchal ligament, the occipital condyles, and the temporal bones. The skull is not comprised of one bone, but is made up of 8 cranial bones that protect the brain and 14 facial bones. We didn't go eight. Yeah, when we read through that yesterday, so we have an understanding of all that. I just wanted to read through that last part right here. Today we're mainly going to be focusing on 3 main bones, the occiput and the temporal bones themselves. But it really depends on the client's issue, because generally if it's a neck issue and they're talking about like headaches, instability, vertigo, stuff like that, I'm generally just going to do the neck and the occiput. People who have had like concussions, had major car accidents, have had brain surgery, you're just going to follow that incision along like we did when we learned incisions, where you work along the scar and then we branch out from it each direction, face to side, working on those fibers and striations that are kind of choking off those suture lines.
And what about tinnitus?
This is amazing for tinnitus. This is fantastic, and this is what you want to kind of focus on a bit. But tinnitus is going to be a different kind of treatment altogether, because I do it on my leg, because I do TMJ and temporal bone, and then I do the other side, because mostly it's around the ears. I will be touching their occiput if I feel it's thick back there, but generally tinnitus is going to be down on the ground, and we just focus around the ear and the temporomandibular joint. But this is a starting point for that area. So when we do the occiput, we have our origin and insertion. Our origin is C1, that's the origin. The insertion is those occipital condyles, the eyes of the occiput. The occipital condyles have 2 little bumps you feel, and sometimes you don't really feel bumps. It can be flush, but most people will have one side a little jolted out over another. And that's why if you have a newborn baby too, don't let it always sleep in the same position. Those skull bones are starting to fuse. They fuse all the way up until we're adults, and so make sure you're rotating that. That's why we have kind of these weird shaped skulls sometimes, because that kid sleeps in one specific position most of its life. So, starting at C1, brainstem insertion, that's the origin. Then I'm going to come to the insertion points, the occipital condyle. And that's just kind of right off that occipital ledge as well, because I will be pulling face to face and face to side. And then that's when you're going to pick a side. And it's interesting because the occiput is one flat bone, so we want to treat it like what we're going to be doing next today, and that's going to be the pubic bone, because it's a small area that we're spending an hour in, but it's a lot of crystallization, a lot of fibrous tissue, and you have to layer, because the skull is very hard, and you have to build up that resistance with your elbow. So I will start with more extension, and I will build my way into flexion. So after I've done that, just say I'm going to take his left side apart first. So think of it as we're doing the low back, the upper back, the spine. We're always going to do one side completely from face to face, face to side, face to feet, and face to side, feeding into the second side, and then I'll do the second side. Does that make sense for everybody?
So if you can't feel a bump,
it could be pretty clean.
Then you just go for that area.
You're going to go all over that area anyways, because you might get some fibrous tissue pulling apart. You're going to feel little pops and snaps. And it's going to be totally different than what we were feeling in the low back when we were working around the sacrum, the SI joints, where you were getting scar tissue masses and you were feeling actual buildup on the SI joint. You're oh, what's that chunk there? Here, you're not really going to get chunks unless they've had really major trauma to the head. So you're going to get crystallization and fibrous tissue, and then calcification, but the calcification is right on the head, so it's not going to be a big ball. So you're going to feel some calcification blowing out, but it's minimal.